In 2014, a company called Theranos was valued at $9 billion. Its founder, Elizabeth Holmes, was hailed as the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. She wore Steve Jobs-style black turtlenecks, dropped out of Stanford, and promised to revolutionize medicine with a device that could run hundreds of blood tests from just a single finger prick of blood. But behind the image, there was a problem. The technology didn't work, and what began as one of Silicon Valley's brightest dreams ended as one of its biggest frauds. This is the rise and fall of Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes was born in 1984 in Washington, D.C., to a well-connected family. From an early age, she dreamed of changing the world. At Stanford University, she studied chemical engineering, and it was there that she became obsessed with an idea: making blood testing faster, cheaper, and less painful. In 2003, at just 19 years old, Holmes dropped out of Stanford to found her own company. She called it Theranos, a mix of therapy and diagnosis. Her pitch was powerful. Instead of needles and vials of blood, what if doctors could test for hundreds of diseases from a single drop? What if medical testing was as easy as checking your phone? It was a vision that seemed too good to ignore, and Silicon Valley loves a bold dream. Holmes had more than an idea. She had charisma. She spoke with intensity, used a strangely deepened voice, and styled herself after her idol, Steve Jobs. She even wore black turtlenecks every day. Investors and media ate it up. By 2010, Theranos had raised hundreds of millions from powerful backers: Larry Ellison, Rupert Murdoch, the Walton family of Walmart, and even former U.S. Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger and George Shultz joined the board. Holmes promised her device, called the Edison machine, could run up to 200 blood tests from a single pinprick. Diabetes, cancer, cholesterol, infections, all detected instantly at a fraction of the cost. By 2013, Theranos announced partnerships with Walgreens and Safeway to roll out testing centers across the country. The media crowned Holmes as the next great tech visionary. Forbes placed her on the cover. Time named her one of the 100 most influential people. At its peak, Theranos was valued at $9 billion, and Holmes personally held shares worth nearly $4.5 billion. For a while, it looked like she had pulled off a miracle. But inside Theranos, employees knew the truth. The Edison didn't work. The machine was unreliable, often giving wildly inaccurate results. In some cases, it could only perform a handful of tests, and even then many failed. To cover it up, Theranos secretly used commercial machines from other companies to run most of the tests while claiming they came from their own invention. Pressure inside the company was immense. Employees were sworn to secrecy, monitored, and sometimes fired if they raised concerns. The illusion might have lasted longer, but in 2015, the Wall Street Journal published an explosive investigation by journalist John Carreyrou. He revealed that Theranos' technology was flawed and that patients were at risk of receiving dangerous misdiagnoses. The story triggered investigations by regulators, lawsuits from investors, and intense media scrutiny. Within months, Walgreens ended its partnership. The FDA and the SEC stepped in. By 2018, Theranos had collapsed. Investors lost billions, and Holmes' fortune evaporated. In 2022, she was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy, and in 2023, she reported to federal prison, sentenced to more than 11 years. The woman once hailed as the next Steve Jobs had become a symbol of deception. Theranos is more than just a story about one company. It's a warning about hype, ambition, and the dangers of believing in vision over reality. Holmes was not the first founder to promise the impossible, but her story shows how far charisma and connections can carry an idea, even when the science doesn't work. It also raises tough questions. Why did so many smart investors, journalists, and politicians fail to ask hard questions? Why was image valued more than evidence? In Silicon Valley, the mantra is often, fake it till you make it. But when lives are on the line, faking it can turn into fraud. Elizabeth Holmes's story is a cautionary tale of how a dream can become a delusion and how a $9 billion empire can collapse into nothing overnight. Next time, on the Founder Files, we'll look at another empire, not in tech, but in fast food. McDonald's, the golden arches that reshaped how the world eats, and the controversial lessons behind its rise. Now I want to hear from you. Which founder, company, or rise and fall story should we cover next? Drop your ideas in the comments, and it might just become the next episode of The Founder Files.